we started giving the guys some freedom. We called it structured freedom. You're going to play within this structure, but when it gets to this action right here, you're going to decide what's next. And I think you hear a lot of people talking about we're playing out of concepts, we're playing out of this.
Yep.
And, I never probably understood what really that was. I think it gets overcomplicated, and I think people try to make it sound a lot harder than what it is.
Yes.
But we would give them 8 to 9 different things that they could do within our structure. And so I might dictate the first side of offense, but then from there it's up to the players. And we spent a lot of time on that, so they felt like they had some freedom within it. It got us talking more. It got us communicating more. We would have a plan for baseline drive, baseline penetration, middle penetration, but then we always had a way to get back to our base.
Hey, welcome to another Coaching You podcast with the coach, Brendan Suhr, presented by Noah Basketball. Today, you're going to get a real treat. Nick Pasqua, the head coach at Converse College, Spartanburg, South Carolina, is going to give you a masterclass in offensive basketball, also in starting up a program. I think this is really important for young coaches. You're working in a high school, you don't have the funds, you're at a small college, at any level, you're at a prep school, you don't have funds. He'll tell you how he has to fund his program. But I'm going to tell you, Nick Pasqua, and you'll listen later on why I've kind of adopted him. I'm telling you, Jay Billis recommended him. He was so on the money. Nick Pasqua is an offensive savant. And his ideas, his teachings, I think they're flawless. I look at his videos all the time from things he sends me. This will work at the highest level of college basketball. It'll work in the NBA. Pace, tempo, the way his players react to his structured offense is nothing but miraculous. He'll tell you how he teaches it. He'll walk you through it. I think you're really going to enjoy. Must listen. After this quick timeout, Nick Pasqua. Noah Basketball is our new presenting sponsor of our Coaching You podcast. Noah Basketball is a shot tracking and data company that has helped change how coaches and players perfect the game's most important skill, shooting. Noah is a data service provider that uses machine learning and the latest computer vision technology to provide real-time data and feedback to improve shooting accuracy and consistency for professional and amateur basketball players. Noah has now analyzed over 570 million shots from countless high school, hundreds of college teams, and 28 NBA franchises. The technology is simply amazing. Once the system has been installed, players will be able to get immediate feedback on their shooting arc, left and right positioning, depth, makes or misses, and makes the data available to players and coaches on your mobile device. For more information about how Noah can help your team, visit noahbasketball.com. Coaches, are you looking to take your game preparation to the next level? Then Fast Model Sports is the perfect coaching software for you. With FastDraw, build an organized library of plays and drills and create professional playbooks to share with your players and staff. You can also download over 9,500 free plays and drills from our Playbank directly to your FastDraw account. Looking for a better way to build your scouting reports and want to include video? With FastScout, build custom scouting report templates to prepare your team best for each individual opponent. Plus, did you know with the latest updates from Fast Model Sports, you can now include video with your FastScout reports and share with your coaches and staff all within the FastScout mobile app. The combination of FastDraw and FastScout is by far the best way for you and your coaches to create winning game strategies and effectively communicate them to your team. Over 10,000 high school and youth coaches trust Fast Model Sports products to help their teams reach their goals. To order, go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code COACHINGU15 to get 15% off any FastDraw or FastScout products. Remember, Go to fastmodelsports.com. Use code CoachingU15 to get 15% off any Fast Draw and Fast Scout products. All right, welcome to our Coaching You podcast. Nick Pasqua, the head coach of Converse College, is our guest. Nick, welcome, my friend.
I appreciate it, Coach. Long-time listener to all the podcasts, all the Coaching You stuff. So it's an honor to be on today.
First-time caller, as they say.
Yeah, that's radio. My Paul Feinbaum coming in. So.
Yeah. Oh God, don't let's not do that. Hey, listen, a great win on Saturday against UNC Pembroke. Great win for your program because UNC Pembroke has always been a very strong D2 powerhouse, especially in the Carolinas.
Yeah, they are. They perennial top 25, pushing for region championships every year. Drew does a great job there with them. So, they operate at a really high level, and it was a big win for our program for sure.
One of the things that I think a lot of coaches haven't had a chance to do is to start really a program, and all of a sudden your situation, I think, is so darn unique in that, it was it's a women's college. And then that, went over. Talk about how the thought process you had as a young coach, because when you go and start anything up, usually it's very hard to have winning teams because you're starting from scratch.
Right.
Talk about that journey and how difficult it is. We're not complaining, but just because I think unless you understand the shoes someone walks in, it's really, you just think it's a game and they're just rolling it out. If you would talk about that at your school.
Yeah. So I was fortunate where I was before at Southern Wesleyan before coming to Converse, which is we're actually in the same league, but pretty much had a restart there. So I had a little of experience. They were the worst Division II school in the country when I got the job there. They had won a total of 11 games in 5 years combined. And so it was the only job I could get as a head coach. And so my first year there at SWU, we won 2 games. I inherited the whole roster that was there before. This is pre-transfer portal. 17 kids returned from the year before where they won 2 games, and that's what I was dealt. And
that was the bad news.
Yeah, that was the bad news. Yeah, you're a head coach. Here you go. Good luck, my man. And but that year when we won 2 games, changed everything about kind of the trajectory I was on. It forced me to do things coaching-wise I would never have thought of doing. Like the guy I worked for grew up playing for in college. We pressed, we trapped, he's won 1,000 games. And here I am. By the end of the year, we've got 6 players on the roster and nobody over 6'4", and we're playing college basketball. So if I could find a way to keep a team in the game with the last media timeout, I felt like, I figured something out coaching it tonight. I kept our guys with a chance to win. And so, that experience having to change a program around with the limited scholarships that we had. And then we went from 2 wins my first year there to 20 in my second. And we won the league championship and made an NCAA tournament. So, that experience there didn't make it seem quite as daunting coming here. There was Ryan Saunders was the coach the first year here. He got the program started, and then they won 6 games this first year, but they were very competitive. And I thought the situation here was with the area, everything. Spartanburg had just some more to offer, and so came here and just took what I had learned at SWU and applied it to, the standards that we try to play with, how we try to practice, how we try to watch film, and just try to ingrain that into our guys and just not be okay with losing. We're not going to win 6 games. And my first year, we went 15-15 after winning 6. And then my second year, we got off to a 9-1 start. We were in the top 25 in the country at Christmas break. And so, we were able to get some good players. That helps, but just not giving in. Like, we're not going to use all the things that are excuses as excuses. You flip those and make them your rallying cry and everything else. And you kind of, what Michael Jordan talked about in The Last Dance all the time. He's going to find one little thing and it's going to motivate you. And I was upset. We beat Pembroke Saturday, and the headline says it was an upset, and so I'm not happy about that. Like, we expected to win the game, and
Right.
so yesterday in practice, that's what our guys are talking about. Like, that's not an upset. Like, we're going to get this thing going, and so you search for all of those things, and then you've got to find schemes that fit personnel and everything else.
Talk about how when you're at a D2 program, that's not a traditional program like Nova,
Yeah.
Southeastern, or in places like that. The teams that were in the Final Four last year, which I loved watching. Um, how it is that you have to sometimes, especially at a private school like yours,
Yeah.
that you have to fund a school, fund a program. Is you don't have media money like the SEC and the Big Ten, where all of a sudden it doesn't matter if anyone comes to the games. You got this much money coming from television. There is no media money.
Yeah.
There is no conference allocation of funds. Okay, so how does it work?
Well, it's probably no different than probably a lot of high school coaches. You go out, you fundraise,
Mm-hmm.
you do a lot of that. We have a developmental program, so in essence, a JV team, and so we have roster numbers we have to meet. If you meet your roster numbers, then you have a chance to be allocated scholarship money to use, and then those also help fund your operational budget and those things. So this it's a multi-layered deal. You have to be the thing about coaching at a D2 where you're not fully funded is it makes your talent evaluation and recruiting has to be really good. If you miss on one kid, if you misevaluate on a kid, it's gonna eat you up. Not just in the dollars that you put into them, but the depth that you're trying to put on the court. So in that way, it has really helped me evaluate players, not just, and in the portal, we are heavy in the portal, but we recruit a lot of other D2s, guys that are at like Lincoln Memorials or
Sure.
the better D2s that weren't getting on the floor. We think coming from programs like that, they're used to winning, they're used to doing those things. So when they get here, it's not a shock that D1 transfers for us don't really work out very well because they're used to a certain way of life, and it's just not like that here.
Right.
You ride on the bus with the women's team to the games, and you're there all day, and so it's just different.
Yep.
But it really sharpens your evaluation skills. You've got to search for guys in different ways. I liken it to a lot of managing an NBA salary cap. Like, nobody's on a full scholarship here. How much money can I put into this guy and still fill out a roster, and what's the value dollar wise that I can put into this guy? And then you're searching for high academic kids who get academic aid from the school, and if they get any type of federal aid, and so it's just a big puzzle that you're continuing to put together.
Nick, we have listeners from not just around the U.S. but all over the world, and so for many of the international coaches that we work with that listen, I mean, those fellas and gals, their teams are club teams, okay, funded by the club. Okay, so explain to them, what is the tuition, room, and board at Converse, just to give them an idea.
Yeah, so we're in the mid to upper 40s all in, and so you've got to evaluate academically first. Like, is this kid going to make it? Like, we have pretty high academic standards, which I'm okay with. It takes
Sure.
away a lot of headaches on the back end. I mean, we had a 3.2 team GPA in the fall, and we don't have to worry about guys going to class and doing the right things because it is a tougher school to get into. So you alleviate some headaches there, and you've got to go find those guys that are going to get the higher academic aid package from admissions and that side of campus. And then we have to evaluate. We have to pay probably more for bigs than we do for guards. If you want a quality big, you're going to have to pay for them.
Right.
And then, not saying a quality guard you're not going to have to, but there are just usually more guards out there that you can go and
Exactly.
find. So it is harder. Like, we are asking guys to make some type of financial contribution to come here, where other schools we recruit against are giving Pell back or giving NIL money, and so it's tougher. You've got to find the guys that fit and fit a scheme that you believe in, are okay to pay $5,000 instead of getting $5,000 back in their pocket, which isn't always the easiest sale either. So, you get told to know a lot. You got to have a big base, and then you just keep kind of weeding through it until you get what you're looking for.
One of the most used words in coaching, and I think poorly used word, is culture. But at your place, you better have culture, correct? And
Yeah,
so how would you describe the culture that you want with your kids and your team?
yeah. So we talk about it a lot, and we don't talk about it necessarily as these are our building blocks. These are our words we're going to use. It's just more about our daily habits. And for us to have success here, we can't waste days. Whether it's a film session is in the weight room with our strength coach, which we're lucky to have here. But if it's on the court, if we're just shooting, whatever it is, like we don't have the margin of error to waste, and we have to be extremely detail oriented in our scouts, in our prep, in our offense, our defense. And we have to be. Effort can never be coached here. It's just a given, and there's been times this year where our effort hasn't been where it needed to be, and we did not play well. So we talk about if we're coaching effort, then we're not coaching. And if we're having to get you to play hard, then I can't do my job. My job is to put you in the right positions on offense and defense. And so it all comes back to, we try to value every day, and then just play with relentless effort. And we're inching our way there right now. I've had some teams in the past where, that once we got to that point, we stayed there. And I think hopefully the win against a really good team shows, like, when we play with the effort it takes, then we can put them in places to be successful.
I love that. Jay Billis called me, and Zach, actually, we do it for always at least a yearly NBA draft podcast with Jay, where he's just a genius on it, and he knows every player going into draft, and he's been doing it over 25 years, the draft. And when we got finished with our podcast with him, he said, "Brendan, I just want to share something with you." He said, at my camp this year, he said, we do coaching development and stuff, and I just had one of the most exciting young coaches ever that I've worked with, and he told me about you. And when Jay Billis gets excited about someone or something, I listen. And that's how our friendship struck, up. And, and since then, you and I have been exchanging video and stuff like that, and I've been looking at it, critiquing it, and stuff like that. Not to put you on the spot, but I used to think I was pretty good on offense and stuff. But the stuff that you're doing and this stuff, where did you come up with this? The way you think about things is different than the way I think about it. But the execution of your players is something that is so elite. And I compliment the kids, always the players, but compliment you in your teaching aspect. How did you come up with the ideas for the offense you want to run? And then how do you drill players on execution? Because I'm very big that execution is the whole key to offense and defense. So how do you get your players to execute so well?
Well, I think I'll start with where did it come from? I'm a good stealer. I steal from anybody.
No stealing. We don't steal here. we borrow and share.
There you go. And so I think a lot of it started that year when I was at Southern Wesleyan, and I had to think outside the box. Like, I had to come up with something. Like, we weren't going to be good enough to have 50 different sets. One, we couldn't remember that many, and two, we didn't have the practice time. That's another thing, being at a small school. Like, we've got one gym and we share with 4 or 5 other teams, and you get an hour and a half, you better make the most of the hour and a half. And
good call.
And so we had to be very efficient, not just in what we were running, but also how we were practicing it too. And I don't think kids like, I don't know if like's the right word, but they don't like, okay, we're going to run this many box sets, and now let's go to this next set, and let's just run set after set after set. Now, there are coaches who have had a ton of success with that, but when I was at SWU and we're playing 6 guys, we have to find a way to keep the ball moving. We have to create advantages with ball movement, player movement. We're not going to beat anybody off the bounce a whole lot. We're not going to be great screeners because we're not physical. So what can we find to start with? And so when I was at SWU, we started with like the ball screen motion, the Euro ball screen motion that everybody runs. And okay, this is good, but I don't want them to be robots. And so instead of back cutting and filling every time to a wing ball screen, we'd come to the UCLA screen, or we would chase over the top and play to high splits, or we would play to a zoom, or we would play to a double back door. And we started giving the guys some freedom. We called it structured freedom. You're going to play within this structure, but when it gets to this action right here, you're going to decide what's next. And I think you hear a lot of people talking about we're playing out of concepts, we're playing out of this.
Yep.
And, I never probably understood what really that was. I think it gets overcomplicated, and I think people try to make it sound a lot harder than what it is.
Yes.
But we would give them 8 to 9 different things that they could do within our structure. And so I might dictate the first side of offense, but then from there it's up to the players. And we spent a lot of time on that, so they felt like they had some freedom within it. It got us talking more. It got us communicating more. We would have a plan for baseline drive, baseline penetration, middle penetration, but then we always had a way to get back to our base. And I listened to Coach Acuff talk a lot about how they would reset their Princeton offense, and we do that now. I think the hardest thing is the middle of the possession on offense. I think the initial actions and the end actions, I think everybody spends a lot of time on that. I think the middle of the possession is where you win or lose a possession. And if we don't want to take quick, bad shots, we're going to be in the middle of possession. And you hear coaches sometimes say we're going to score early or we're going to score late. Like, I don't care when we score it. I just want to score. And I've never kind of understood that thinking. And I don't want to just run high, flat ball screens at the end of the shot clock. And everybody weaks it, downs it, whatever. And so how can we reset and continue to flow and have pace in the middle of the possession? And so, then that kind of took us down a whole nother rabbit hole on can we reset? How can we find our next actions? And then we started really playing out of formations. And so we've got an empty side series we can play out of. We've got what we call square, 4 out, 1 in. We've got, kind of a drag series we'll play out of. And then we'll play some out of 5 out, but not a whole lot. And so conceptually, like, however the floor is aligned, that's how we're going to play. And that has really helped us a lot. So we don't have a numbered break. We don't have the same guy take it out every time. We don't cross the middle of the floor. We run our lanes. And so if we've got 3 on a side, we know we've got 5 or 6 things we can play out of with 3 on a side. If we're squared up, we've got 1,000 things they can play out of that. And so it's not looking the same every single time. Like, you've got teams who they'll push it hard on a miss and play dribble drive and just space and pace. And then on a make, they're not going to play as fast. They're going to call sets, or they'll run some type of secondary break. And so we wanted to be as hard to scout as possible. So sometimes on a make, we've got an empty corner. Sometimes we've got a loaded corner. Sometimes we're this or that. And it's all about trying. And then the middle of the possession, whatever alignment we end up in that, if we end up with an empty corner, we know how to play out of it. And so it's right to the next action. So it takes time. Obviously, it's something we start from day one, and then you just continue to add counters and pressure releases into it. And we try to never fight for the ball. If you're overplayed, you go back door, and then we've got rules for that. But if I had to say, we may have 2 quick hitters, really, and then everything else is built into our motion. Like, if I like something, I want to find a way to build it into what we do, and that way we don't have to tip it. Like, I think, you start tipping plays this time of year, everybody knows what's coming. I think the teams at the end of the year have some type of motion offense that they can continually get to and play out of habits and play out of concepts. And I think that's how you have your success, especially late January, early February in conference play.
It's phenomenal. Let me ask you this. I want to be the student now, you be the teacher. So I want you to teach me and tell me, all right, so when you're starting practice in the very beginning of the year, and let's just talk fast break first.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what are we telling you guys? I heard exactly everything you said, but now you're teaching the fast break in practice. How do we teach it? Your entire
Yeah.
build up, if you want.
Yeah. So we start really basic. Like we'll say, we only let our 5 men rim run. Nobody else has
Do,
the middle of the
let,
floor.
let me stop you. Do you start off 2-on-1 or even 3-on-1, 3-on-2? Or do you
Yeah.
just go
So
with 5? Yeah.
we go straight 5-on-0 first, and
Okay.
we do a lot of 5-on-0. I'm probably a little different when it comes to that. I think 5-on-0, a lot of people, kind of raise their eyebrows at it, don't think it's effective anymore. But I think if you're going to play through concepts and continually string actions together, if you can't do it 5-on-0 and they can't get a feel for it, then 3-on-0, 4-on-0, I don't think it's going to help. I think you need all 5 guys out there to see the spacing and what this next guy's going to do, which then triggers me to do something. So we start at 5-on-0 and we go. I'm really big whole part whole teacher. Like we're going to give everything to them, and then we'll go back and break it down and then put it all back together. So we'll start 5-on-0. So we kind of give some responsibility. So our 5-man early in the year will never take the ball out of bounds.
Never.
You're rim running hard. We want you from rim to rim. Nobody else is rim running. We let and our personnel dictates this year to year. But right now, 1 through 4 for us can push it on a miss. We dictate a point guard on a make. So I think you have to teach makes and misses transition offense.
Agree.
And so we usually start with a make. So we kind of define just a little bit more early on, and so our 5 still has that freedom. We're going to outlet it to a defined point guard. Now 2 through 4 for us, the closest one's going to take it out. And if we feel one of them's not a great ball handler against pressure, we won't let them take it out. But early on, we're going to let any closest one take it out. One, I think that also helps with defensive rebounding. It makes them block out and being there to rebound instead of trying to leak out. So they'll take it out. We usually get our point guard right side up the floor as far as he can. Most of our guards are right-handed, so it's easier for them to make the inbound pass with that going that way, throwing it anyways. And then we let the other 2 guards, the one that didn't inbound it and not the point guard, so those 2 guys are going to run the closest lane to them. Now, if they're away on the left side, then one's going to run to the deep corner, one runs to the 45, and then we'll play out of our empty side series. But in transition, we want that point guard. Now you're talking about playing out of some 2-sided break where you cross the floor, kick ahead, +1, and we feel like we've got early advantages there. Or we'll play the early step-ups on that empty side, which I think are really hard to guard if you've got a point guard who can snake it back, touch the paint, all those things.
Who's doing the early step-up, the 5-man?
Yes, yeah. So if he can't win his race to the rim,
right.
Well, we say if you can win the race, you win the race. If the defender is in front of you, you're breaking it off and looking to set those early step-ups or early drags.
Good.
And so now that's if the 5 can see if that corner is filled or not as he's rim running.
Sure.
And then we've gotten to where we play to some pistol type action with the 5, breaking it off and throwing it to him. So it's not always step-ups. I think sometimes those step-ups get too close to the sideline, easy to trap. And so we'll throw it and play gets, and then we'll cut off of that and have a whole package kind of out of it. But if the 2 or the 3 if one of them is on the right side, he'll run to that right wing, and the other one will, and that's where we end up squared 4 out 1 in, and we've got our chin stuff that we play out of or some different things. So we don't let anybody rim run. I think that gets too confusing. I think sometimes if you've got 2 guys running to the same spot, you negate each other. So we try to really space the weak side. We've got a rim runner, and then they just run the closest side. And so nothing changes on a miss other than you may have somebody else bringing the ball off the floor. So and how we try to teach our offense right now, 1 through 4 for us can initiate our offense. I think too many teams are reliant on one person to initiate the offense. And so if we know you're very heavy on your point guard has to run every set or get you into every action, we're on a make, we're going to try to sandwich him, not let him bring up the floor and put you in a little bit of a panic. And so how we try to teach our stuff, 1 through 4 for us can initiate any action at any time from anywhere, and we should be able to keep playing.
I love that. I mean, so when you're coming up the court now, where did you come up with the concept of the formation is so important? Because I love that. That's football thinking, I think,
yes.
And I love the idea and the thought process behind concepts, because I think that's the BS that kind of goes in coaching nowadays is we're going to play out of concepts. I love the idea of structured action, really, and stuff like that. But watching your team on video, running your stuff, terminology from you to the players has to be a really important thing.
It is.
Okay, so when you come up and when you come up with your terminology, how did you? I know Lenny Akoff has his own very unique language. Okay, but how did you come up with yours?
So I've heard, Coach Beeline did the animal kingdom and all of these different things. And to me, I'm not that smart to know that many different things, or it has to make sense to me. So like
Yes.
if we're playing with an empty corner, we call our stuff empty. If like we're not going to get overly complicated with, and I try to find, I think it's important that you find one word for something, and that
Yes.
word can then translate across anything that you want to do. And if we're going to call a UCLA screen something in this, then that same terminology, if we want to set a UCLA screen in this, has to be applied to that. And so we try to find, and it gets harder the more the year goes on and you add more stuff in, but one syllable, one word for everything that can be communicated quickly. We don't have Tennessee, Ohio, Kentucky, like we don't go all the states. It has to make sense to like the direction somebody's cutting, a formation on the floor. You may get to where you've got a nose, an ear, something that you can touch or call quickly, can mean something too. And so we are very intentional in that, and really our first workout, we will give them a dictionary of front and back. This is what we call this. I mean, we've got something we call for a step up. We got something we call for a uphill DHO. Instead of just saying, we want to go ball screen here, we've got a call for what that ball screen looks like. And so then it's easy, like you've got your formation. So we may have a word for our formation, and then we may have a term for the play we want to run out of that formation. Now, we may be able to run that play out of 3 different formations. And so if we just get a formation call plus a set call, then we can easily add actions and sets to pretty much any formation. And one other thing we have tried to do, and this came from SWU and not having a ton of practice time, whatever we decide to run, we have to find a way to run it out of bounds under and out of bounds on the side. And so that became, so if you don't have a lot of practice time and you don't have time to practice out of bounds under, out of bounds on the side, man O, zone O, man D, zone D, all these different things, press you want to get through, find ways to run what you're running now, out of bounds under and out of bounds on the side. And we, one year at SWU, we were number 1 in the country out of bounds under, and I bet we didn't spend 5 minutes a day in practice.
How about that?
We had our alignment. We have an alignment call, and then we could run whatever action we were running out of that. And so it cut down on practice time. We became much more efficient because we're running it all the time. We just need to know how to line up. And so we've done that on the side too, and it just makes practice more efficient. You're not wasting 20 minutes on things that you run 5% of the game. So
that's brilliant. I love that. So you go from your 5-on-0 teaching. This is, I think, the most critical part, I think, nowadays, the evolution of college, high school, college, and pro basketball. You and I have talked about this, where in the off-season, kids never play 5-on-5 anymore, my opinion.
Yeah.
Unless it's an organized game. Yeah, the trainers and all that crap. And none of them work on defense, rebounding, and passing in the off-season, right? I mean, it's just offense. So now you have to get into 5-on-5 because you have to defend. And I find the biggest problem that I observe in all the college teams I observe is that players don't know who to screen because they never practice screening and don't know how to read screens. And yet when I watch your guys, it's bang, bang. So now when you come out and then you go 5-on-5, show that progression. Are you teaching your defense first, or are you letting them just kind of read it? You know what I mean? There's sometimes.
We teach offense first, and then so we go against whatever. I feel like if we can go against whatever, if you want to switch it some, you want to do this, you want to overextend some, I think that teaches them organically, however you want to say. I think that teaches them how to make that read at that moment. Like,
Right.
you don't know if they're going to switch it, if they're going to hard hedge this ball screen, if they're going to play in a drop. Like, just making reads based on whatever the defense is giving you at that point. And so I think that starts the initial teaching early. I think if they know every single time we're going against what we do early in the year, then they start cheating it and everything.
Exactly.
We just had this conversation. We had practice this morning, and it's hard for us at this point because we know our plays and our defenses cheating stuff and everything else. But early in the year, like, we don't really know what the defense is going to do to us. So it really expedites probably learning and making those reads, which you want them. We try to give them like not 1,000 different things they can do, 2 or 3 different things. You've got this, you got that, and then a counter to that. And so I think anything past 3 things that they can do at any certain time, like on a read, I think that just gets to be too colluded in the mind, and they're not going to play with the pace that we want to play with. Pace is big for us. I feel like pace trumps a lot of things. Pace sometimes will trump really good execution if you're not a great screening team, but you can find that advantage and keep it. And I think that's where those middle of the possession breakdowns, like, you've got to know what that next action, what's the floor telling us to get into next. I think that's huge, because if you can't figure your way out in the middle, you're going to end up in high flat screens or double ball screens. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong.
Right.
I just know for us, when you're probably not having the upper talent in the league, like, you can't let those 6'6", 6'5" guards that just lock you on a side and keep you there, and now we're in trouble. So we have to find a way to continually find the next action.
All right. Let me ask you a little bit defensively about what you try to do. Give me your style, what you're trying to do defensively. You don't have to give me all the secrets and stuff, but just from a stylistic standpoint, what are you trying to do? Man, zone, press, etc.
Yeah, so we this was some of the best advice I ever got, and it was I was the head coach. My first ever head coaching job was at Tusculum University, and I was 30 when I got it. Had it for 9 months and then didn't have it anymore. So we won 6 games my first year, and I was trying every press, every zone, every trap, and then trying to be something on offense at the same time. And so we were in the same league with Coach Church when he was at Lincoln Memorial. And so it was a loaded league. He was there. Bart Lundy, who's at Milwaukee, was at Queens. Carson Newman's always good with Coach Benson. I mean, you go down the list, and
great coaches.
Yeah, and we were in a lot of games. I think we lost 8 games by 6 points or less. And I was trying to figure it out my first year. So,
how far removed were you from Jim Boone being there?
He was one coach before I took over. So
great coach.
Yeah,
he was a great friend of ours. Yep.
And he was there, and then I took over for a guy, and it was a similar situation. That I think they'd had 8 years of 500 or below, and so it was going to take some time. But nonetheless, the best advice I got was Coach Church invited me to come and spend 2 days with him as they were getting for the conference tournament and all that stuff. So I went down there, and he told me, he's like, you can be complex on offense or defense, but you can't be both. And that has stuck with me for a long time. And so we're gonna be more complex on the offensive side. I think it takes that. I think it takes hard to scout, hard to prep, and then by the end of the year, being able to play out of principles and concepts to win games. So on defense, we're going to be very pack oriented. We stress defense, rebounding, effort, talk. Just to me, being a good defensive team is being very scout sound, knowing personnel, and then playing harder than the other team. You have your box out responsibilities. You got 2 or 3 ball screen coverages. You know how you're playing in the gaps. You know how you want to close out. And so we work on defensive fundamentals all the time, and then we hope those fundamentals then can translate to whatever we have to guard, and then hopefully our effort and those things will carry us through.
I like that. That's a great advice by Josh, who's one of my favorites. I love him. He's really something. Give me some thoughts that you have. How could we make college basketball better?
Well, that's I think at our level,
Any
And
level, any
yeah,
level. Yeah, no,
uh,
it's got
uh,
to improve at every level, I think.
yeah, I think you go back and forth sometimes on the shot clock, whether it should be 24 or 30.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what also rules changes,
Yeah,
etc. That's what I'm saying, and
yeah.
making it better. Yeah.
I think that's a tough one. I think if every high school had a shot clock where they were playing 30 seconds in high school and then they come here, I think a 24-second clock would be really good. I think it would help. I think it would help probably some teams that want to play with pace and do some different things. You can still run into some things in college where teams can really dictate the pace just by kind of controlling the ball and holding the ball on some different things. Not to the level it is in high school, but you can run into that some. I think the main thing, I think there's got to be some type of even playing field at each league, at each level. Like if it's NIL, I think it has to be universal, what everybody's allowed to do, not allowed to do. I think for a long time, I thought Division One. I mean, you know what went on behind the scenes, but everybody had the same amount of scholarships. Everybody's got 13. If you want to be Division One, you've got 13 scholarships. And so, now I think that has changed dramatically with how much you can pay a kid to come in. And for us, like Division Two, 10 is the most scholarships you can have. And not I would say 75% of our league is at 10, and then everybody else is kind of fighting for everything else. So, that's a school by school choice, and I don't know if that ever changes, but I think some type of uniformity when it comes to all of those different variables that changes what each school is able to provide and put on the floor. And I don't know how you change that. I don't know if it would ever change.
Yep.
But it would make it, in the NBA, everybody's got a salary cap. Everybody's got the same rules. Everybody's got this and that they've got to kind of go by. So it's not sour grapes on my end by any means.
No.
I think I think then it's more even playing field across the board.
Yeah, no, you're right on that. But it's not going to happen because there has to be all that stuff was reached through collective bargaining.
Right.
And so there has to be management, the NBA or WNBA, G League, negotiating with the union. We don't have a union,
right,
and stuff. And everyone has the same thing. We have 365 Division I schools, so you can't have collective bargaining because everyone's different,
Yeah.
So it would be nice. You're 1,000% right, and it would be better. But my opinion is it cannot happen legally.
Yeah,
legally to get to that. I mean,
yeah, and the other thing, I think the portal's great. I think I kind of liked it where it was. Like you get the one time that you can go somewhere. I think every year you can walk out the door and be ready to. I don't know how they're gonna get through school with the transfers and from a private to a public and then back to a private. I think you lose a little bit of just
sure.
Working up your way. We very rarely, we've got one, we're redshirt now, but the development part I think is gone. Like you don't bring a high school kid in and they don't want a redshirt most of the time, even though you think that's what's best for them. And then, if you bring a kid in and they come in and do great, that you're not gonna have them very long. I mean, it's just how it goes. And so it's changed a lot, and especially how we try to play. If you can have multiple years in what we're asking you to do, it goes a long way.
Long way.
So, I think I understand it. Like I know where we are and we're not going to go backwards, but I was good with the one-time transfer, but I think the multiples it makes it hard on everybody too.
One of the things that you can control, I'm a big on, there's things that you can and can't control in life and especially in coaching. And one of the things you can control is some of the rules and like 24-second clock. When I go over and do clinics in, it doesn't matter, Europe, Asia, Middle East, and all of a sudden I see 14, 15-year-olds playing 24-second clock. And our college coaches say, we can't do that. It's a bunch of BS, and so I also wish we would allow every kid in high school, in college and college, women and men, allow them 6 fouls because the experience of playing, in football, you can go off sides 6, 8, 10 times. or you can have a holding penalty
Yeah.
12 times. You don't get thrown out of the game. And also the technical foul as a personal foul is maybe the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. So little rules like that could really improve the game,
Yeah.
and stuff. But
I'm with you.
yeah, so I always look and ask people of, real intellect and substance, what they would do. I don't ask Jay that too much because he'll come out with a litany of things because he's so damn bright.
Yeah, I
And
mean, you're a lawyer answering questions about.
he won't hold back.
Yeah.
Which I love. But I'll tell you what, this is. I'm such a big fan of yours, and I love what you're doing. I love your passion, and I love the way you teach. And I just think the thing I like is it doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter, and Nick, is that you coach. Like you coach every practice, every game. Like if you're coaching at Kentucky or Alabama, it doesn't matter. And you be the best teacher and coach for those kids. It makes you better.
It does.
And I think what you have, the biggest advantage you have, is you almost have a laboratory to experiment and try things that sometimes you don't get to do at another level because you're under a microscope.
Yeah, if you're in the SEC there and it's your first, you got promoted from assistant to head coach, like you don't have the time to figure it out, and without all the message boards and everybody calling and everything else, and like we can play here, and my mom and dad are gonna know the score of the game, and that may be about it, and so it does give you a lot more freedom to coach and to not be looking over your shoulder and not worried about all the other things that come with the higher levels.
Nick, I love the things you're doing. I love you sharing and things like that. You're not stealing anymore. You're sharing it with others, and you're borrowing from people like Josh and them. But I can't wait. This spring we're gonna have you on our Coaching You circuit for clinics and stuff because I think what you have to teach people, it's rare air. And just like with Lenny Akoff when he was at UAH. When I brought him to our Coaching You clinic in Orlando, people were going, you have Stan Van Gundy, all these guys, Rick Carlisle, all these guys, Doc Rivers teaching, Eric Spoelstra, and you got Lenny Akoff. He was a star. He was a star.
You were watching it.
Yeah, he was amazing, and he's one of my very best friends. So, I think you have a great future ahead of you, and I think it's just starting. So continued success, my friend.
Well, thank you again for allowing me to be on this. Like I said, I watch and listen all the time, and appreciate your friendship, taking interest. I think that speaks volumes of yourself. That D2, NAI, it doesn't matter where you are coaching. That's you take an interest and you really help people. So I really appreciate it.
Well, you're most welcome. I played at this level. I wanted to be a high school coach my whole life. I never achieved that goal. Okay. Yeah. I didn't, not by choice. It just kind of happened. And so I really appreciate what you're doing and stuff like that, where you're doing it. And I think it's going to be great for your future and stuff. So, hey, I look forward to it again. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Nick. Good luck the rest of the season.
Yes, sir.